Reading Scott's article, we can realize how modern advertising has shifted away from traditional theories of marketing, which assume that commercials be made up of representational images that realistically display a product and its tangible and relevant features. In this sense, advertisements have historically been pragmatic and practical. Goods and services have been visually positioned transparently so that consumers unproblematically absorb the images presented to them without the need for cognitive engagement. Examples of this are everywhere. Mercedes will boast the luxury of their convertible merely by showing a close-up of it. Maybelline will promise its customers voluminous eyelashes with their mascara simply by applying it to a model. Febreze will demonstrate the sweet-smelling purpose of their product purely by spraying its contents. All of the images in these ads are literal. What Scott's article brings to our attention is how advertising has evolved to be visually rhetorical rather than literal. In our world of unbridled capitalism, consumerism and marketing is at its peak to the extent that there is now a clutter of ads. In an endeavor to break through the noise of habituated perception, repetition, and boredom, businesses have been employing creative strategies that use metaphors, puns, and figurative speech to communicate their messages. These techniques are called tropes, and they signify visuals by convention rather than by resemblance to reality or nature. In other words, there is a higher and abstract sense of processing required of the audience to decode or interpret the images based on cultural knowledge of social cliches and concepts. It is this cultural knowledge that ultimately persuades the audience toward the product by association. Take, for example, this Barely There ad. As Scott explains, once interpreted, the message is quite relevant, even though the representation, when viewed literally, may be unrelated, nonsensical, or inappropriate. Here, the picture on the left has no meaning without the picture on the right. Visual rhetoric therefore presents a conceptual process that is more complex and sophisticated than what past literature on the study of images dictates. Thus, Scott is imploring the need for consumer research to expand their approach to the nature and processing of advertising because of this. Take, for example, also the following Absolute ads. They have gained massive popularity to the point of being collector's items for their witty innovation. These ads transcend the advertising market and are created with an artistic and tantalizing edge that showcases the product as synonymous with lifestyles that are hip, wild, young, relaxed, sexy, and liberated. Figurative notions that actually have little to do with the alcoholic drink itself. The processing implied by these designs is deliberately inferential and would not be possible in a framework in which pictures be absorbed peripherally. Instead, the response anticipated by these ads are contingent on a kind of reading, that is, of the context-sensitive manipulation of learned symbols. Under a theory of visual rhetoric, the visual viewpoint, focus, graphics, and layout are all ordered and related in a specific way to the message itself. They are not independent variables, as is often presumed in traditional consumer research. A thought to ponder is the reverse side of this wit, that rhetoric is sometimes too clever and convincing, and as business markets try to tap more deeply into our latent desires and needs, we become more like pawns on the chessboard of consumption. The danger here is, of course, getting sucked in, taking figurative speech too seriously, and leading us to purchase items that we think are necessary or worthwhile simply because of the arousal certain ads may elicit in us.